Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Evolve Beyond Limits podcast. And I'm super excited because we're going to start spending some time breaking down the nitty gritty of the six leadership principles, as well as the stressors that go along with them. But before we get into that, I want to share with you some foundational tools that are complete game changers. These are things that within the first few weeks of pretty much working with just about anybody, we talk about, we discuss, we understand, because at the end of the day, if you can understand some of these foundational principles and you can keep coming back to them, that's the point, is that they're meant to be used, and then you can learn how to master them. If you do those three things, understand them, keep coming back to them, master them, then your life will improve on every level and you're way more likely to reach the goals that you have in life and all of that good stuff. So today we're going to start with a really, really simple but powerful one. Maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't, but I like to think of these as tools. Maybe you've seen it once, but again, this is something we can keep coming back to, which we will talk about. And that is the emotional cycle of change. All right. So this is the cycle that we go through whenever we are trying to make any type of change in our life. It's not something that we're doing just every so often. This is actually a cycle that we're going through. And once I explain the cycle to you, you will be able to see it. I see it in my own life. I see it with my clients. I see it with Andrew's EOS clients. It's all about what are the emotions? What are the things that we go through? How does change and transformation actually happen? And the cool thing about understanding this emotional cycle of change is that there is always a tipping point. There is a tipping point where things start to turn in your favor. And we never quite know exactly how long that's going to take, but I can promise you that it usually takes longer than you would like it to. That is almost guaranteed. We live in an Amazon Prime world. We want instant results. We like instant gratification, and change doesn't happen like that. It goes through this cycle. Whether we're making a huge change or a small change, we're still going to go through this cycle. Sometimes the cycle is days, sometimes the cycle is weeks, sometimes the cycle is years, and this is it's going to help you to understand what that looks like. So I'm going to go through it really quickly and help you understand it, and then we're going to actually break down the 5 individual pieces of the emotional cycle of change so that you can truly anchor in what does it feel like to be in each stage of this cycle. All right, so the way that I like to explain this is that the best way is I used to in my nutrition coaching, I would see something that would happen a lot. And it is the best way that I can describe the emotional cycle of change because I feel as if everybody can relate to it. Okay, so we decide that we're going to make a change in our diet and in our health. And so we pick a diet and we're like, okay, I'm going to start doing keto, and we're all excited, and everything is sunshine and rainbows. And we're like, this is gonna be so great. I'm so excited. I can eat all this just meat and butter and all these different things. And it's gonna be so great. And I don't even have to eat vegetables. It's gonna be so cool. And then that's where you start. And then you start to go down this curve, and that curve is going, okay, maybe this isn't as great as I thought. My digestion is kind of wonky. Things don't feel that great. I actually feel really, really full all the time. I have to drink electrolytes now. And so you start to kind of see, maybe this isn't as sunshine and rainbows as I thought. And then after that, you go down into what we call the valley of despair. And the valley of despair is when nothing is going our way, right? We have made all these sacrifices. We're not eating the cake at the party. We can't have sweets. We can't have bread. And simultaneously, we're not losing weight. Our body isn't changing. We feel worse and all this stuff. And we're in this bad place, right? And so what happens in the emotional cycle of change, that this valley of despair, it always happens, but it's the make or break moment. And what we could do is keep going and keep pushing through. And then we're going to start to come out on the other side of the emotional cycle of change. But what most people do is at this make or break moment in this valley of despair, they go right back to the beginning of the cycle. They go, you know what? So much for this keto stuff. What I'm going to do is intermittent fasting because I just don't even have to think in the morning when I'm going to go that I have to eat anything. I just get to drink coffee all morning. And then on top of it, I get to eat whatever I want for 8 hours and then just stop eating. It's going to be so simple. It's going to be perfect for my lifestyle. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, well, this is maybe a little bit more difficult. I wake up really hungry. My friend invited me to breakfast and I can't eat breakfast. And then we go into that emotional or that valley of despair. And then what will happen is you will either keep going and start to see positive benefits, or what again we'll do is be like, you know what? I'm going to become a vegetarian. And we love to keep coming back to the beginning of the emotional cycle of change because the beginning is called uninformed optimism. It is the sunshine and rainbows type of feeling. All we can see is the good that something is going to offer us, and we love that feeling. And so we just keep spinning in this cycle, and you never actually achieve what you went out to achieve because you just keep starting over with a new strategy, a new workout plan, a new way of eating, obviously put in whatever goal you're working on. But at the end of the day, if you don't push through that valley of despair and you keep, it just keeps you stuck in this cycle without ever reaching your goal. And that's not what we're looking to do. So the reason I want to break this down for you, the reason that I love sharing this particular tool in the beginning of my coaching is because if you understand this, you can use it as a tool to propel you forward. And you can also know that the valley of despair or that dip is coming. And when we know the dip is coming, we can plan for it, and we're way less likely to let it stop us because we know that it's coming. We know that there's going to be a moment that we want to give up. And as long as we keep pushing through that, we will continue to make the change that we want to make. But we need to know that it's normal to actually feel this particular feeling. Let's go through the 5 different phases of the emotional cycle of change and break them down into what is the phase, what are the emotions that come along with that phase, what do you need to watch out for in that particular phase. So, first phase is uninformed optimism. And this is the sunshine and rainbows phase. This is the one that I was talking about. This is whenever we're about to start something new, we can only see the good. We can only see the end of the tunnel, the light at the end, that it's going to feel so good. So we're filled with excitement. We're filled with naive optimism. We're really inspired. We're motivated, right? But what we need to watch out for about this stage is that we're overly confident. And I can say this, if you've ever started a business, we all know what this feels like, okay? And everybody has gone through this phase, but I'm just saying, when you start a business, you're very overly confident about what it's not going to take, what it is going to take, all of those things. So we want to watch out for being overly confident about how we know for sure that this is going to go and it's just going to be easy peasy. We need to know that there's going to be work involved, right? And so watch out for that. Watch out for unrealistic expectations that we may have, and really watch out for what I call the Amazon Prime effect. Not everything arrives in 2 days, especially your goals. Transformation does not happen overnight. Everything can come together overnight, but things do not happen overnight. It happens over compounding time. So if we think that we're going to wake up in 2 days and we are going to feel better than we've ever felt, you are in for a rude awakening. All right? Because the whole point of the emotional cycle of change, the reason that we go through this process is because we need to grow into the type of person that can hold that goal or that success or whatever that looks like. And growing into that person requires sacrifice. It requires letting go of certain pieces of our ego. It literally is about growth and expansion, and growth and expansion don't always feel great, and they take time. Okay. So that's the first one, uninformed optimism. Woohoo! This is going to be amazing, right? The second stage is informed pessimism. So this is harder than I thought it was going to be phase. Okay. So this is when we go, shit, This is not as easy as I was expecting it to be. And this is where the discomfort starts to set in. And what you might start to feel in this phase is frustration, some doubt, some resistance. This is where we become really impatient. We're like, I've been doing this for 2 weeks. Why is nothing happening? Right? This is where we start to feel that impatience coming in. We feel overwhelmed by like, am I doing the right things? Am I not doing the right things? Should I go back and start over? Do I need to be doing something different? And in these moments, we just have to be like, well, hold on. Doing something for 2 weeks isn't that much, right? So, what we need to watch out for here in this particular one, in this informed pessimism, is comparing ourselves to others, especially other people, if they're on the same journey as you, comparing your results or outcomes to their results and outcomes. Because here's the deal is that none of us are the same. We are not on the same path. We do not have to become the same person to hold the same goal. We have to work through our own stuff because we all have our own wounds, our own weaknesses, our own strengths. So don't compare yourself to others in this phase. This is where we really start to question our decisions. All right. So, like I said, you will start to be like, well, maybe I should be doing this, or maybe I should be doing this, or maybe I should be doing this. And it's like, just hold for a minute. Trust the decision that you made in the beginning and hold. And then the last thing that we want to watch out for here is trying to escape the discomfort. When I first had become a nutrition coach, I remember going to a mentor of mine and I was like, there's this moment where people just start to freak out. Like they're not getting the results that they want. They're putting in the effort. What do we do? And she said, I want you to just tell them that imagine that they're in a tunnel. All right. And they're in the middle of the tunnel. Behind them is where they came from. And then if they keep moving forward, there's light at the end of the tunnel and they will get there. But their only two options right now are to keep moving forward or turn back and go right back to where you came from, which for most people was their worst case scenario. Right. So this is what starts to happen in this phase is you start to want to escape the discomfort. And the way that we escape the discomfort is to go backwards, go back to who we were. All right. Because that's more comfortable. At least it's more familiar. All right. So the third phase that we go through is the valley of despair. All right, this is the why did I even start this in the first place phase. This is that make or break moment that we talked about. This is either where you are going to push through and make it to the other side, or you are going to give up and go right back to who you were in the past. So turn around and start the process over in some other way without seeing results, or keep going and trust the process. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just keep walking through that tunnel and you can see that light on the other side. So I like to think about this as like, this is where God is starting to check your foundation. All right. And it's checking in on your intention. Why did you start this in the first place? Like, do you really want this thing or not? And if you really want this thing, you're going to be willing to hold. You're going to be willing to hold through that discomfort. But if not, then you're going to turn around and you're just going to run back to who you were. And so this is the gut check time, right? Do you actually want it or not? And the only way to get to it, if you really truly want it, is to keep moving forward, to keep trusting that process. But some of the emotions that you might feel here is hopeless. You might feel shame, like I'm putting in all this effort and nothing's happening and I'm embarrassed by that. You might have a lot of self-doubt. You may just feel discouraged by this entire thing. Maybe you feel a little bit of exhaustion. A lot of times this is where people say, you know what, I just don't really care, right? They use that as an excuse. I don't really care. I don't actually want this thing. And it's not that you don't want it. It's that you don't believe that you have what it takes to get there. And so what this valley of despair is for all of your fears, all of your self-doubts, all of your weaknesses, all of the things that you need to strengthen, start fizzling to the top and saying, pay attention to me. Pay attention, because these are the things that we need to change. These are the things that we need to grow through. This is the stressor moment. All right, you guys, this is the moment where all your stress comes bubbling to the surface and it says, you need to believe in yourself. Maybe that's it. You need to make time for yourself. Maybe that's the thing that's getting in your way. You need to stay committed to something for once, right? You need to give yourself a chance to succeed. You need to lean on other people for help. Whatever it is that is stopping you from reaching your goals is going to come to the surface during this time. So this doesn't have to be this terrible thing. It's actually such a blessing because it's showing you exactly where you need to grow. This is the stress. This is the stress that is showing you the blueprint to your success. All right. So what we have to watch out for here is obviously giving up. Giving up. We need to watch out for the self-sabotage patterns that start to make their way to the surface. We need to watch out for reverting to old patterns, and we need to watch out for blaming other people or things outside of yourself. Well, I would be able to do this if my husband would just help me do this. I would be able, like, we'd be able to reach this goal if this particular leader was doing a better job, right? We start to blame things outside of us instead of coming back and saying, hold on, how is this phase asking me to grow? What is it asking me to do here? All right. So that's the valley of despair. None of us want to be there, but you guys, it is coming. It is coming. It is going to happen. So you might as well just embrace it and see it for what it is, an opportunity to strengthen your foundation so that you can reach the goals that you want to reach. So the fourth one is informed optimism. So this is the oh my God, this is working phase. All right. And we start to see progress. We become more optimistic, but we also are a little bit more realistic. So we're grounded and steady. We're not as like, oh my God, this is going to be the best thing ever. We're just more like steady and realistic about what we can do, how we can do it, all of that stuff. You're going to start to feel a sense of the emotions you might feel are relief and gratitude, and you're starting to feel really proud of yourself, like, oh my gosh, we're actually moving. You start to get more personal power, meaning that like you start to feel good about what you're putting in, not just the results that are coming out of it. And you have more determination because you are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're like, oh my gosh, there it is. Here we go. There's things that we want to watch out for in this phase is a fear of slipping back to our old ways, right? That's always like, what if I can't maintain this? It's kind of that mentality. So watch out for that. Watch out for this is too good to be true. You know, I see this a lot of times in relationships where things start to take a turn for the better because you've been fighting for your relationship and you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Right? Watch out for that because you've put in all this effort so that the shoe doesn't have to drop. So this is another area where people may self-sabotage quite a bit. And remember that you are still learning to trust yourself here. So it still is actually very easy to slip back into that valley of despair. So you have to keep moving forward and continuing to do the disciplines that got you to this place in the first place, because you will slip backwards. We're kind of on the upswing and you're more likely to slip backwards when you're in that space. So paying attention, continuing with the discipline, double downing. I don't know if that sounds weird. Anyway, double down on the disciplines that got you here in the first place. This is not your time to let your foot off the gas. Like think about if you were driving, I think about a Jeep going up a sand dune or something. But if you're driving up a hill and you take your foot off the gas, you are going to start to slide back down. This is not the time to allow for that. And then the fifth and final phase is success and fulfillment. This is where you get to say, I did it. The new way of doing something feels more natural. It's become part of who you are. It actually becomes embodied, which means it's something that you just do because now it's part of you. It's no longer something you're trying to do. It's something that you choose more often than you don't choose. All right. And that change is kind of integrated. So yes, in this moment, you've reached the goal. But the more important piece of this moment is that you have become a new version of yourself in the process. You are stronger. Maybe you're somebody who knows how to lead a team better. Maybe you're somebody who knows how to set good boundaries. Maybe you're somebody who finally knows how to put themselves first and understands the good that does for the people around them. Maybe you're somebody who sees through a more compassionate lens, who has adopted a more positive leadership style. Whatever the thing is, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that you have become a different version of yourself. You have unlocked a new version of yourself. And that is where the power in this entire process lies. So you have become a more resilient, capable, stronger version. And that is worth that journey all in itself. All right. The things you're going to feel, the emotions, is joy, fulfillment, empowerment, freedom. You're going to feel more trust in yourself. You're going to feel more gratitude for what you've been through and how you were able to move through it. And every time you go through this cycle, you become more confident in your ability to go through the cycle, to go through the hard thing, to, you know what to expect. And you're like, you know what? It's going to be worth it. And I know that to be true. And so you just know how to keep chugging away every time this happens. So what we want to watch out for when we get to the success and fulfillment is, one, becoming complacent, right? And then we stop doing the things that got us there. That's not the point. I see this a lot with people who want to lose a certain amount of weight, is they'll do anything in their power to lose the weight, and they'll lose it really fast, which we'll talk about that at some other time. They don't do it in a healthy, sustainable way. And then they get to that goal and they sit there, but then they revert to all their past patterns because they reach the goal and they weren't focused on who they were becoming. They were more focused on the goal than who they were becoming. And therefore, they didn't change in that process. That's not going to lead to joy and fulfillment. It's actually just going to lead back into that cycle. So just know this is not a time to say, oh, great, I reached the goal. Now I'm going to go back to doing all the things that I was doing before. Like, no, who did you become? Stick to those things. And then the second thing is skipping the time to celebrate. Okay, before you start a new cycle of growth, before you start to climb up another mountain, doing this will end up causing so much burnout. All right. So whenever we reach a goal, whenever we get to this success and fulfillment space, we have two pathways that we can take. What a lot of us do, and what I am 100% guilty of, what I used to do, was to go, okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? Right? And all that did was lead to pressure to do more. And eventually, when we feel too much pressure for too long, we are going to burn out, right? So if you never give yourself an opportunity to reflect and see how much you've grown and celebrate your progress and celebrate the things that you've put in, then you are going to end up just feeling more pressure to do more, to do it better, and you will eventually end up burning yourself into the ground. The other option is, I was at a conference a few weeks ago. I don't know, maybe it was longer ago than that, and one of the guys I was talking to, his name was Mike. He was amazing. And he said, you have to let your people dance in the end zone. And I loved that, because that's the essence here, is that we have to let ourselves dance in the end zone and really reflect on how much hard work we put into that. Can we give ourselves and the people around us an opportunity to celebrate? Because when we do that, instead of leading to burnout, it leads to gratitude, and it leads to calm, and it leads to peace. And then it actually leads us to a desire to want to get to the next goal, but we can do it from a place where it's sustainable and we're not burning ourselves into the ground. Okay. So this is the secret sauce here, is being able to do that, is let yourself dance in the end zone. Let yourself celebrate what you've done. And you're just going to be even more inspired. And you can really look back on that cycle and say, okay, what are the things that I experienced? What were my individual experiences through this process? And that way, the next thing that you go after, you're going to be growing through a whole different things, but you're going to know what works, what doesn't. How did you talk to yourself? How did you move through it? And you're developing your own toolbox of the emotional cycle of change. So the last thing I want to talk about is how to use this. Okay. So if we utilize this whole clarity, control, and confidence method, this is a checkpoint for yourself, or when you're coaching somebody, or if you're leading somebody on a weekly, monthly, whatever, quarterly basis. We can ask ourselves, where are you in this cycle? Or where am I in this cycle? All right. So, and you can decipher that by saying, what emotions am I feeling? If you can decipher what emotions you're feeling, then it's going to lead you to saying, oh man, I am in informed pessimism right now, or I am 100% sitting in the valley of despair at this moment, or, I'm on the upswing. Whatever that looks like, it'll lead you to where are you in that cycle? And literally, we'll put something in the show notes so that you can print this out and put it there and check in and say, where am I right now? Because then we can normalize it. And that's going to feel really good. And that's our second piece. When we can see where we are and have the awareness, we can then now we're back in control. Rather than our emotions taking over and deciding what we do or what we don't do, we normalize where we are. And we can just say to ourselves, this is just part of the process of transformation. And we can shift out of this downward spiral of I'm inconsistent. Why is this so hard? I'm broken. To, you know what? I'm human. This is what change takes. This is how transformation works. I am growing. I am learning. I am expanding. And so, of course, it feels hard. Of course, it feels uncomfortable, but all I do have to do is keep moving forward. And you can anchor into that and feel really confident. And that's where our confidence comes in is, so I know where I am in the cycle. I've identified that. I've also identified that it's normal to be here. And this is exactly what I'm supposed to be feeling. So now we have the confidence to ask ourselves, what is one step that I need to take to keep moving towards that informed optimism and ultimately towards that success and fulfillment? And maybe that I just need to call a friend or like call somebody who's supportive, and I need to talk to them. Maybe the step is that I need to write down all of the wins and all of the breakthroughs and all the things that are working instead of focusing on what's not working, right? There's steps that we can take, and then we take that action and we just keep moving forward. So that is the breakdown of the emotional cycle of change. I am so excited because I want you to use this over the next little bit and just kind of see what this feels like to you. Maybe there's a change or a goal that you're in the middle of right now, and pull this out. Look at this emotional cycle of change. Identify where you're at. Use these steps, and it will help you move forward and reach your goals faster. On our next solo episode, we're going to go into another tool. This one is kind of more like a principle, but you're going to have to wait until the next episode to figure that one out. So we'll get on that one next week. And that's what I have for you. So we love you. We're sending you so much love, and we will catch you on the next episode.